It's the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.
Let's talk about your jersey. And you guys are first up against France. I mean, I look at that team, the French team. I think back to November when the Wales team was up against South African team. That French team almost looks a bit more imposing than the Springboks did on that day. Tell me about Wales and what do you expect of that game specifically? I mean, we know they're underdogs and then we know they're in the back foot. But there does seem to be a bit of a fighting spirit emerging. I know Warren talks a lot, but I mean, the Ospreys beat Benetton by some ridiculous score this weekend. Cardiff is in the top three, or they were in the top three. It's looking better than we expected it for Wales rugby at the moment, isn't it?
Oh, I think you're the most optimistic person who's spoken about Wales for the last year. The situation with Warren Gatland has become toxic, and it was toxic throughout the autumn. And then when he announced his team, that toxicity hadn't gone anywhere. And Wales did a review. The WRU love a review. I think the R stands for a review, Welsh Review Union. They and Warren Gatland basically said, well, the players gave me their feedback, but none of them know anything about winning. So I ignored that. And the WRU gave me their feedback, but none of them know about winning either. So I ignored them too. And he's done regular interviews about how the players are weak-minded. This woke culture is something he loves speaking about. And there's just no continuity. The centers is the perfect example. I often think you can look at as team centers and learn a lot about the coach from the centers. And if you look at last Six Nations, it was Nick Tompkins and George North. George North retired. The only reason Nick Tompkins was in the team was because of his partnership with George North. So when North went, Tompkins also went. They went into the summer. They had Mason Grady, who's been playing wing for Cardiff. They moved him to 12, where he'd never played at professional level before. And the reason for that was that he's the biggest lad on the team. And Gatland thought, oh, I did this thing with Jamie Roberts, who was a fullback when I found him and turned him into a world-class inside centre. I'll do it with this guy. And it didn't work at all. It was a disaster, in fact. So he came into the autumn and they went, okay, Ben Thomas, this guy who's been playing incredibly well for Cardiff at 12, what if instead of playing him at fly half, we play him in his natural position? Oh, and then that started looking quite good, particularly when he had Sam Costello in front of him. And then you had Max Llewellyn at 13. And then the Six Nations comes around. Max Llewellyn isn't in the squad, not selected. Ben Thomas is going to have to play 10 because Costello's injured and Anscombe isn't picked. And we've brought back in Owen Watkin, who throughout his whole career has appeared to be a stopgap. He's the guy who gets picked when the other guys are injured. And Nick Tompkins is back, except now he's playing at 13. There's nothing, that 10, 12, 13 combination from the beginning of last Six Nations to now, there is no line you can draw between any of the campaigns. It's always been a new idea, new solution. And if all through 2024, Gatland was talking about uh, developing for the World Cup, which is always a red flag in my opinion. Now he's gone as old as he can, apart from at fly half, where he's picking a 12 and a kid who's just breaking through at the Ospreys. So at regional level, yes, they probably are performing a bit better than you would think, although Cardiff and the Scarlets have had a favourable fixture list, and the Ospreys had a very tough start to the season and have kind of bounced back since that. But it's very difficult to be like, it's very difficult to see where Wales's next win is coming from. And if we do go winless for this whole Six Nations, it's going to very quickly be 18 months without a win. Like who goes 18 months without a win? Like Canada have won a game more recently than Wales.
I want to applaud Hugh for that. It was a series of paragraphs. It had structure and style and passion and melancholy and sadness. It was like a dark, brooding Welsh valley, and I felt it.
Yeah, we could hear the hills echoing. Okay.
I feel like sometimes I'm the only person watching Gatland do his thing and say his thing and think, is this guy gone mad? I mean, has he lost his senses? I remember thinking that when he went to the Chiefs, and he wasn't up for it. He couldn't compete at Super Rugby level. He could not seem to understand the changes. He has this thing where he says, in practices, I have my players construct a scenario. I go, that's cool. Scenario painting, smart. And then he goes, would you prefer to get, caught by possession and turned over, or do you just let the ball go? And like, he quizzes his players, and then on the basis of their responses, some 24-year-old guy's got to think through analytics and then respond to Warren Gatland properly. Then he drops the guy, or he goes, "Oh yeah, so Josh Adams knows the right answer." That's just learning Warrenese. Like, if you're going to be around a guy and get picked a lot, you learn. It's like your favorite professor in university. You just know how to construct your essay. It doesn't really think that you're better or worse. So I just didn't understand Max Llewellyn not getting picked. He seems like exactly what Warren Gatland's explaining and describing he wants. And then he didn't pick him. He says something about a player, "Well, I didn't get the ball enough, so I'm not going to use this guy." I go, that doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, the fact that he didn't get the ball doesn't mean anything. It just means you didn't get there to him, or you were just getting destroyed. So I've started to not really take anything that Warren Gatland says proper. Like, I don't really think of it literally. It's just some sort of drunk poem in a pub gone by, and it's the guy in the corner that no one wants to talk to.
All right. Sorry, you, if I overestimated Wales's resurgence.
Hey, we
I
do
thought it
doom
looked
and
good, eh?
gloom. Doom and gloom is our third language. We're always going to be more negative than anybody else about ourselves, and I like the word melancholy. Melancholy. That's a very Welsh word.
It's the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.